Good morning, class. We're going to switch chapters now. We're going to start talking about chapter 16, which deals with family. And this is a pretty long chapter. So I'm thinking it's going to take maybe 3, 4, possibly 5 subdivisions. So this one's going to be 16A. 16A. I'm talking about family. I like talking about the family for a variety of reasons. It was my area of emphasis in graduate school, and so a lot of my coursework was in that area, and my dissertation was in that area. And the reason I like talking about the family, other than the fact that I just like it, is I like the idea that the family has changed over time. It's evolved. And it gives us a good illustration of how an institution can adapt over time to different changes, and that's what the family has done. I also like studying the family because we get some really good insight into cross-cultural variation, because we're going to look at different family types and see how they vary. And the point is that in each instance, the family is trying to accomplish basically the same thing, but they approach it in different ways. So we're going to talk about those differences and how they attempt to solve the problems that confront them. The way I want to begin this is I want to define the family, okay? And since we're going to have a definition that fits cross-culturally, we want something that will apply to all different societies. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin by defining what is the basic cellular unit of family structure, okay? And that is the nuclear family. So we will deal with, you know what, I always forget to do this beforehand. And I apologize each and every time. So we're going to be looking at the nuclear family, okay? And we're going to start with the definition, and then we'll talk about the functions of the nuclear family. But the definition of the nuclear family is 2 adults of the opposite sex living in a socially approved sexual relationship with their own or adopted children. Now, right off the bat, this definition is going to seem a little bit archaic to you, and it is. But it's kind of the standard definition, but things are changing, and so we'll talk a little bit about the changes, but we'll talk about the basic ideas that underlie the nuclear family. So what we've got are 2 adults. You know what? Let me skip over here. I'll do it this way. 2 adults, opposite sex, socially approved sexual and their own or adopted kids. All right. So let's work on this piece by piece. Okay, 2 adults. You've got to be an adult to marry. Okay, and the reason is that marriage is established for the procreation of children. All right, and I mean that's the focus. If you want to know why do we have certain rules about marriage, it all devolves into protecting the children, working with the children, protecting them, looking out for them. And so you've got to be an adult, okay, to get married, because, and by definition, an adult is somebody who is sexually mature and can procreate. So in Oklahoma, for example, I think without parental permission, you've got to be 18, okay, and you're an adult at 18. With parental permission, 16. It's my understanding, and I wouldn't bet my life on this, but I think that you can get married at the age of 14 if you're pregnant and you have parental consent. So it's pretty young, okay, in Oklahoma. But you're still an adult. You're still sexually mature. Obviously, if you're pregnant, you're sexually mature, right? So you got 2 adults. Now, this next phrase is one that's changed, opposite sex, okay? This has just been a change that's taken place in our society. And I think in the majority of states now, majority of states recognize same-sex marriage. I can't believe I'm saying those words. Not that I oppose it, but just the change. I mean, it represents really big change, but it's occurred. So two adults, opposite sex, socially approved sexual relationship. The whole idea, that here's the whole focus, folks. Again, we're looking at kids. We're trying to protect kids. And the way you protect kids is to ensure that there'll be two adults there to take care of them. And so you want the sexual relationship. If you're in a sexual relationship, the statistics on it are like this. If you're having unprotected sex in a sexual relationship, within a year, 85% of all couples get pregnant. Okay, the 15% that don't get pregnant are subfecunded. Okay, so 85% get pregnant. So if you're in a socially approved sexual relationship, it means that, okay, if you get pregnant, it's okay because there's somebody there to take care of the kids. And then with their own or adopted kids, and the critique of this is just that, you know, you can have people that are in a relationship for years and years and years, and, you know, they never have kids. They won't have kids. They're that 15%. We don't recognize them by this definition as a family, okay? But I think in terms of common sense, people would, you know, recognize them. Okay, so that's the definition of a nuclear family. Remember, the nuclear family is its basic building block. Now, there are some functions. That's the definition. Now, there are some functions of the nuclear family. Okay? And they are these. There are four functions. Okay? Sex. I'll write this down. Sex, reproduction, common residence, and economic cooperation. All right. So we make a distinction between sex and reproduction. Sex is for fun. Reproduction is for marriage. The thing about sex is a very powerful drive, and society's got to have a way to control it. Because if you have unrestricted sex, you got sexual anarchy. And what's the problem with that? Children. You got children being born and nobody looking out for them. So we've got society has a vested interest in regulating who has sex. And the basic idea is that if you want to have sex, you're supposed to be married. Now, obviously, it doesn't always work that way, but that's the thing. Reproduction, basic function. If you want to have kids, you're supposed to be married. Does it happen that way all the time? No, obviously not. 40% of all births today in the United States are to unwed mothers. 40%. Okay, so obviously it doesn't. You know, there are exceptions. Common residence. The interesting thing about this is that even in an extended family where you have a bunch of different, you got Uncle Harry and Grandpa and, you know, Aunt Sally all living together in one big household, there still is an area of the household, a room or a section of a room that's designated as the residence for that nuclear family. In other words, they're recognized as a common unit and they have a common place to stay and live, and that's their turf, right? And then there's some economic cooperation, and the economic cooperation is typically based on gender lines. So typically the guys work outside the household, the women work inside the household, the women rear children, stay inside the household, guys go outside. Okay, so those are the functions of the nuclear family, four functions. Now, the nuclear family, this is our basic cellular unit, but the nuclear family can be combined into what are called composite family forms cross-culturally. So let's take a look at that. Composite family forms. Composite family forms. And there are two ways that composite family forms are formed, okay? One is through the extension of the parent-child relationship, and the other is through the extension of the husband-wife relationship. So what we're going to do initially is we're going to look at composite family forms formed by the extension. I'm going to put a extension husband, wife relationship. Okay, so the extension of the husband-wife relationship. Now, what this results in when you extend to the husband-wife relationship, it results in a family form called polygamy. 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 The prefix poly means many. The root word gamy refers to marriage. So you have plural spouses. So polygamy is plural spouses. Polygamy is broken down into two subtypes, okay? And they are these. You know what? I need to do this. Polygyny, P-O-L-Y-G-Y-N-Y, and polyandry, P-O-L-Y-A-N-D-R-Y. Okay. Now these words are instructive, okay? You can figure out what words mean a lot of times by looking at, what goes into them. If you look at polygyny, P-O-L-Y means many, G-Y-N-Y, okay? Think of gynecologist, a woman doctor. That root, G-Y-N-Y, refers to women. So you have plural wives, okay? Plural wives. And so you have one guy with several wives. Polyandry, poly again means many, A-N-D-R-Y refers to male. Think of the androgens, okay? Sex hormones like testosterone. So you've got many men. So several guys will marry one woman. So that's the basic distinction. So polygamy is broken down into polygyny and polyandry. Polygyny is by far the most common variant. Okay, we do see polyandry, but it occurs under certain situations, and we'll talk about that. So let me break this out a little further. A common variant of polygyny is called sororal polygyny. Sororal polygyny. And what this means is several sisters will marry one guy, okay? Again, poly, many, G-Y-N-Y, women, the women are all sisters, sororal polygyny. Now, one of the things I like about studying the family, I didn't mention this, but it's true, is that different family types, maybe I did mention this, typically they make sense. They're functional. In our culture, we expect to fall in love, find the most perfect person, get married, it's a perfect relationship, yada yada yada. But in a lot of cultures, they do what works, okay? And sororal polygyny works. And let me tell you why it does. Marrying several sisters. First of all, the girls are already related and have hopefully worked out their differences before they get married. Not always, but hopefully, okay? But the main reason is that when one of the women gets pregnant, the other women are the aunt of the child, okay? So the whole focus is protecting the kids because it binds the family together. Because if you're not the mama, you're the aunt. And so everybody is blood tied to that child. So it promotes, if the women are unrelated, okay, if you just have polygyny and the women are unrelated, one woman gets pregnant, the other women, they don't care, right? They're unrelated to that woman. But so this promotes some social cohesion. It binds the unit together. Now, there is a variant of sororal polygyny. It is not an example of polygamy. But it's just kind of an extension of it. And it's called the sororate, S-O-R-O-R-A-T-E, the sororate. And the sororate is the expectation that the widower, that's the guy, right, will marry his deceased wife's sister. The widower will marry his deceased wife's sister. Now, again, this is very functional. I mean, just think about it. You got some old guy. This happens in Oklahoma. Now, we don't have the rule, we don't have the custom in Oklahoma, but it happens because it makes sense. It's functional. So you got some old guy, 60-year-old rancher out here in Goldie Bowl, Oklahoma, and his wife dies. Okay, well, who's he going to meet? Who's he going to enter? How's he going to find another wife? Well, if the sister of his wife is available, okay, it makes sense for them to marry. And you see this happening, okay? Not all the time, but some, okay? Because think of it. His children are related to that woman. She's been their aunt all their lives. He's been the uncle to her kids, okay? You've got this bond. It just makes sense. He's part of the family. What are they going to do? Go out cruising Maine looking for chicks, when you're an old guy, and you lose your wife? No, but you go with who you know, and it makes sense. It's a commonsensical approach. Okay, now let's take a look at polyandry. All right, a common variant is fraternal polyandry. Fraternal polyandry. And the basic idea here is that several brothers will marry one woman. And this, too, makes a lot of sense. Because when the woman is pregnant, no, they don't know who the father is. I mean, these are pre-literate folks, okay? They don't have DNA testing. The woman gets pregnant, everybody's wondering who the father is, okay? Well, if you're not the father, you're the uncle, and it binds the group together. The Togas of India that I mentioned before, they have this practice of fraternal polyandry, where several brothers marry one woman. And the way they do it is each of the brothers has a hut, and the woman will go, spend one night in this hut, one night in that hut, okay? Well, when she gets pregnant, she doesn't know who the father is. And so what she'll do is she chooses somebody to be the father. So she makes a bow, like a bow and arrow bow, okay? And she puts it outside one guy's hut. He wakes up in the morning, hey, I'm a daddy, okay? He accepts it, the others accept it. Now, is he actually the father? Nobody knows. Very few care. If you're not the father, you're the uncle, okay? Now, there is an extension of fraternal polyandry that is very functional, just like for women, and it's in some cultures it is a custom. Okay, it's reinforced by custom, maybe even law. It happens in our culture, but again, just because it's practical, and that's called the leveret. And the leveret is when the widow will marry is expected to marry her deceased husband's brother. When the widow is expected to marry her deceased husband's brother. And again, it just makes sense, okay, in terms of your field of eligibles, who you're going to interact with, who you're going to find. It just makes sense. Okay, let me just check something right quick. I don't know how long we're going to go on here. I'll tell you what, I know what I need to do. Let me do one thing, and then we'll bring this one to a halt, and we'll start with the next section. So this is 16A. And the last thing I want to talk about with respect to family structure is composite family formed through the parent-child relationship. So this too is a composite form. So remember, we said the nuclear family is combined in a composite form through one of two ways: extension of the parent, the husband-wife relationship, and number two, extension of the parent-child. That's what we're talking about now: extension of the parent-child relationship. And this is how it works. You have a nuclear family. You know what? I'm going to try to draw something here. I know this is dangerous. Let's see. Okay. You have a nuclear family. Oh, look at that. And what's in the nuclear family? You got the dad, the mom, and you got the son and the daughter. Okay? That's a nuclear family. Two adults, opposite sex, socially approved sexual relationship with their own adopted kids. All right. Now, the way we extend through the parent-child relationship is upon reaching maturity, this guy, okay, this boy, marries this woman. Whoops, that's kind of a wild woman there. They get married, and they have kids, and they make up a nuclear family. So he marries this woman, they have a couple of kids, there's a little boy, and there's a little girl, okay? Now, what you've got is a situation where you've got three generations. You got the parents, the children, and then that son becomes a parent and has a couple of kids, okay? So you got three generations, and the secret is to a composite family formed through parent-child relationship is that the three generations reside together. They live together, okay? Now, because of the way this is structured, we've got a couple of concepts that I want to talk about, and I need to go back to my letters, okay? There we go. We have now this is all from the perspective of the guy here, okay? Because he's the common element. This guy is what combines this nuclear family with this nuclear family. And so for this guy, this family up here, I don't know if you guys have seen my pointer or not. Let me do it like this. How about that? For this nuclear family is called his family of orientation. I think of just has one F, but I can't change it now. Yeah, I can't change. Sorry about the misspellings, folks, but once I do it, it's done. Okay. This one down here, I goofed that up. This one down here is his family procreation, okay? So it's the family he created. Now, all of you belong to a family of orientation. It's a family that you grew up in, okay? And that's your family of orientation. Some of you have a family of procreation. Some of you have children, okay? Most all of you will eventually have families of procreation. Now, in talking about this extended family, and then, well, let me just tell you this. All of these three generations, they reside together, okay? For the traditional Chinese family, the preferred form was to have 7 generations under one roof, okay? Right now we have 3, right? We got 3. We got the parents, now the grandparents, the parents, and the kids. But to have 7 generations, of course, that didn't happen very often because of life expectancies, but that was the cultural ideal, okay? Now, you can combine the extension of the parent-child with husband-wife, and so you can have relationships where you've got several brothers all reside together, okay? And so there's all kinds of possibilities that crop up here, but I'm just trying to present the bare bones stuff to you. Now, in looking at this and comparing it with the independent nuclear family, there are a couple of concepts I want to point out. One is that we can talk about families as being conjugal, or we can talk about them being consanguine. Oops. Conjugal and consanguine. Conjugal, con means with, and it's with law, with marriage, and what that means is that the focus of the bond. Oh God! My granddaughter just snuck up on me and scared the hell out of me. Yeah. This is a little culprit. This is a little culprit. And I don't know if I've shown you guys me it before or not, but this is a little Dickens. All right, let's scram out of here. What? Okay, all right, sounds good. She's making cinnamon rolls for Papa. Papa's excited. Okay. God, I forgot. Oh, conjugal and consanguine. Okay. A conjugal family is where the emphasis is on the marital bond, okay? And so you get married, and that's, you form a family, right, through the marriage. And it's the actual ceremony. And consanguine, though, is emphasis on blood, okay? So con means with, sanguine means blood, with blood. So the emphasis is on the blood ties. So we have, in this family system, okay, the emphasis is on the blood ties, okay, not the marital bond. So this is going to sound strange to you, but if you're a member of a traditional Chinese family and you want to have another child, you don't talk to your wife, you talk to your parents. You get parental approval, then you inform your wife. If you want to buy a truck or a cart, you don't talk to your wife, you talk to your parents. Okay? And I know this strikes us as weird because we think of the wife as your partner and you discuss everything with her, but it's just a different way of doing things. You show allegiance, the primary focus is on the family, and when this woman here comes into this relationship, this woman right here, that wife, this becomes her family. This becomes her family, okay? She's a part of the family now. She leaves her family. She's no longer identified with that. We'll talk about that. There's some concepts related to that, and we'll talk about that. Okay, I forgot to check the time. I think we probably ought to stop here, okay? This is a good place to stop. We've got through composite family forms, and we're getting ready to talk about the incest today. So let's stop right here. We'll pick up in a sec. So this is 16A.